I like movies. Yes, I do. I like movies. How about you? We're good. You can see that I read books. The Oscars is one of the most prolific awards that a movie can get. Tied, of course, with the Kids' Choice Award. The last movie to get a lot of nominations from the Oscars was Titanic in 1997, getting 14 nominations. Lord of the Rings also got 11 nominations back in 2001. Both super notable movies that get referenced and talked about to this day. So of course, when I heard that Emilia Perez got nominated for 13 Oscars, I had to think that this was a prolific, amazing film. However, everyone who has watched this film have been saying quite the opposite. That this movie is straight dog water. Now, the internet tends to be dramatic all the time, every day, so I wanted to give Emilia Perez the genuine college try. There has to be some hidden gold that the Oscar committee saw that no one else did, so I gave it a watch.
Go. I'm a lucky man, maybe I should play the lotto.
So let's talk about the movie, actually. So I'm going to be talking about Emilia Perez and the whole story, so obviously I'm going to spoil the whole thing. If you want to watch the movie, do that first, I guess, or not. You do whatever you want with your life. I believe in you. So we start off with Rita. Hold on, we have to get through all the production companies that worked on this film. There's about 15 or some shit. There's like 2 minutes of production companies, but it's like that one Family Guy bit.
Well, now that seems intentionally misleading.
We start off with Rita working on her opening statement. Rita is a lawyer, and we learned about this through song form. Yes, Emilia Perez identifies as a musical, a thriller musical, and we all know how well thriller musicals have been going so far. Anyhow, Rita is a busy lawyer and she's working on her opening statement for her client in song form. A crowd of people appear to sing around her in an expedition dump kind of way. What case is she working on? That doesn't matter. Don't even worry about it. Actually, none of that matters for this movie. The only thing you really need to know is that she didn't really want to work on this case. So after winning her case, she gets a call with a mysterious proposition with a large reward. She starts to sing about her unhappy life. People appear and sing around her in an expedition dump kind of way. Is this going to be, I think this is going to be the theme. Okay. Then she's taken by Benitez, the cartel kingpin who needs her to do something for him. He tells her, or actually he sings to her, that he needs her to find her a doctor to get gender affirming surgery in secret, paying her millions of dollars to do so, which is kind of funny. When I saw the trailer of this, I thought that she was going to be doing something super dangerous because this is the cartel we're talking about, but Benitez just needs her to find a doctor. Like, this movie wouldn't happen if Benitez just downloaded ZocDoc. Anyway, Rita accepts this offer, which in hindsight I don't think she had an option, so she gets to work to find a doctor. She heads to Bangkok, where we get our infamous song, Man to Woman, from penis to vagina, which unfortunately is the catchiest song in this whole movie. However, Benitez is not impressed and presses her to get a doctor fast. So Rita heads to Tel Aviv, where she finds a doctor who can't sing. Lady. The doctor is hesitant about the surgery because he knows nothing about the patient, but one song later he agrees. Benitez's master plan is to fake his death and relocate his family, his wife and 2 kids, his wife being played by Selena Gomez, to Switzerland, where they have the rest of his money to spend, so he can live his truth as Emilia Perez in Mexico. Which, you know, is a terrible plan, but the movie's gotta happen. So the surgery happens, and now Benitez is Emilia Perez, the trans cartel kingpin ruling over Mexico. What? Oh, she left that life behind. So she's just Emilia Perez now. Oh, okay. She left every trace of being a cartel kingpin behind and lived her life as Emilia Perez for about 4 years, until she started missing her kids. So Emilia finds Rita, who's now moved to London, to tell her to relocate her family in Switzerland back to Mexico. So Rita goes, all right, how do you ask? So the story is that Emilia is the distant cousin of Benitez, who is also loaded and has a mansion in Mexico. Of course, Jesse and the kids move back to Mexico and they live with Emilia. But then they realize that Emilia looks familiar, and for the rest of the movie, they're trying to figure out who Emilia is. What? Oh, they don't recognize her at all. Not even in the slightest. She never even questions the validity of Emilia Perez? Oh, okay. So now Jesse is frustrated and singing in the bedroom. That's right, this movie is a musical, remember. Yeah, there were other songs before this point, but they were truly not anything spectacular. Anyhow, this song caught my attention the most for whatever reason. The song is about Jesse following the orders of a dead man and how she just wants to live her truth and live her life. So she takes that money that she gave from her ex-husband, or now dead husband, and she runs the cartel gang. What? She doesn't do that. So she really moved back to Mexico so she could be with her side piece, Gustavo. Oh, okay. Oh, so Jesse was having an affair with Gustavo before Benitez died. So when Emilia asks about Gustavo and learns that it was an affair, Emilia will go in a fit of rage and go back to her cartel ways. What? She doesn't care? She already has a girlfriend from her non-profit? Okay. What non-profit, you ask? Well, Emilia starts a non-profit to help families identify the bodies of victims of the cartel, since there were a lot of people missing in Mexico. Emilia is using her cartel connections to do so, which is why the non-profit is doing so well. Emilia becomes a well-known and respected figure in Mexico because of her non-profit. Hi, it's me, Marquise. This is the nitpicking camera. To my understanding, Manitas died and left that life behind. So how is it that Emilia has all these connections? Wasn't that like the whole plan? To cover her tracks, Emilia is Manitas' distant cousin, but does that excuse work for everyone else in the cartel? And they're all just like, yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. That doesn't make any sense, what? Rita moves back to Mexico to work alongside Emilia. Jesse's falling in love with Gustavo, and all three of them are having just a great time. So Jesse decides, you know what? I'm gonna marry Gustavo, and I'm gonna move in with him. Tells Emilia that she wants to move out, and Emilia immediately threatens her for wanting to take her kids away. What? That's what sets her off? Right, that was the whole reason why Emilia wanted the kids moved back to Mexico, so she could be closer to her kids, who don't recognize her. Well, maybe one kid does. There's a whole song about it, but it's kind of weird to watch. Emilia hires some guys to beat up Gustavo and pay him to leave Mexico City. Okay. Which of course Jesse, validly so, was shaken up by this and moves out in the middle of the night. Which after watching this movie again, apparently this whole sequence when they both call Rita about what's going on is a song. I don't know how it is. I think what's really funny about this particular song, which one is, I think is the worst song because it's not even a song. Jesse's now making connections and she's just so confused as to why. So when Jesse moves out in the middle of the night, Emilia freezes all her cars so she can't spend any of the money because technically it is her money. So Jesse's kind of just like, how is she freezing my cars? It's my money. Well, how is she doing this? Jesse runs off with Gustavo, but then Rita is working in a non-profit and gets a call that Emilia has been kidnapped. Kidnapped by Gustavo and Jesse because they want her money back. So of course they cut off some of Emilia's fingers and send it to Rita so they know that they're serious. So Rita gets some backup from what I could only imagine are cartel guys to help with this hostage exchange. Hostage exchange. Ooh, say that 5 times fast. So they meet up, things of course go wrong, and a shootout happens. The most interesting shootout to ever happen. So while the shootout is happening, Emilia reveals to Jesse who she is, in song form. Gustavo puts Emilia in the trunk of his car and grabs Jesse and they drive off. Jesse's in the passenger seat while her reality's kind of been shattered. She kind of flips out on Gustavo, who ends up crashing the car and kills them all and they die at the end. A bunch of people appearing and singing about Emilia, and Rita's like, well, I guess I'll just take care of Emilia's kids now. And that's the end of the movie. That's Emilia Perez. Sure, I kind of butchered describing the movie, but nothing really happens in this movie. I added some stuff there expecting some things to happen, but really none of it does. And that's kind of my whole problem with this movie. You see, there's like a subset of people who believe that movies don't need like a driving force or like a high stakes plot for it to be an interesting movie. And I say, incorrect. The example I always hear is that what if Indiana Jones, instead of doing the Crystal Skull stuff, was just an archaeologist doing his job and just discovering something really cool at the end of the movie? You see, you could make that movie, but that movie would be boring. That is Emilia Perez. After transitioning, pretty much nothing happens for the whole movie until the very end. I feel like the movie tried to set up some stuff for the plot, but kind of nothing pays out. Here's my take. I've seen bad movies. I know bad movies. I secretly really like bad movies. This movie isn't a bad movie. I hope this makes sense, but this movie is just not good. Like, the intention is there to tell this story, but the delivery just isn't it. This movie is a musical, by the way, and it does this impressive thing where none of the songs are good. I was joking earlier about the being the catchiest song, but quite literally that is the one song that's been stuck in my head. Sure, most of the songs are in Spanish. This movie is a Spanish movie, and that's the only song in English, which could contribute to it. One of the songs won an award in this movie over Wicked, which... What? Most of the songs in this movie could have just been regular dialogue. I feel like some of the songs were regular dialogue, but the director just said, actually, sing that line. Some of the songs add absolutely nothing to this movie. Plus, each song sequence is just people walking in and singing along to the song. There isn't really choreography, if anything. Even the final song of the movie is just people walking around singing about Emilia. This movie is just lackluster. Maybe it's on me for thinking that this movie would have been some transformative transgender story like Pose or The Matrix. If it is supposed to be, I don't think this movie did a really good job. For instance, there is no yellow filter in this entire movie, and this is supposed to take place in Mexico. How am I supposed to know we're in Mexico? So let me remind you, this movie, Emilia Perez, was nominated for 13 Oscars, one of them being Best Picture. I don't even need to look at the other movies on the Best Picture list to know that this movie is not winning that one. If you sat me down and showed me this movie and told me it was nominated for even one Oscar, I'd be surprised. That sounds a bit harsh, but truly, I don't. So it only begs the question as to how is this movie nominated so much? So I had to do some digging. And that only raised more questions. So apparently this movie wasn't even filmed in Mexico. It was filmed in France. And the entire production, all 15 production companies, are all French production companies. So they had to translate everyone who speaks French to English and Spanish because all the actors spoke English or Spanish.
Baby, you got something in your nose.
Then I learned this movie won Best Film for the European Film Award, which I don't even know what's going on in Europe right now. I don't even live there. Not only did it win that award, but also won a Golden Globe for the Best Musical/Comedy, Best Non-English Movie, and Best Original Song, which... I looked at the list of the Golden Globes. All these movies lost to Emilia Perez? The budget for this movie was $26 million and it only made $14 million, which means it was a failure. There's an audience score rating of 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, and you don't even want to know what it's like on Letterboxd for this movie. Is this a good movie? Am I just a dick? I don't know. I even hear news about this movie not being received well by other Mexicans and people who are transgender. So how in the world is this nominated for all these awards and won all these awards? So I've been scratching my head about this movie since I've seen it, and I've seen it unfortunately too many times just to make this video. So should you watch this movie? I mean, I guess. I mean, if you have some laundry to do and you need some background noise, I would recommend that. If you're like a Spanish 2 teacher and you need a day, just put on this film. I feel like it's basic enough Spanish for high schoolers to follow along. There's not all bad things about this movie. Like, yeah, the acting's like pretty fine if you ask me. Some of the cinematography is pretty neat, only sometimes. But is this film best film worthy? Honestly, no. And I don't get how it is. But hey, that's just my opinion. I'm just talking colloquial.
Go! Take a sip of my drink, fucking take the bottle. I've dated grad school chicks and I've dated models. I'm a lucky man, maybe I should play the lotto. But they don't wanna stop.
The end.